Okay, so domain and range of a linear function that models a real world situation. These look like word problems, but they're not so much. There is a system for how you're going to do this. We're going to start in the upper left and work our way around. But we do need to read the question. So the Sugar Sweet Company delivers sugar to its customers. Let C be the total cost of to transport the sugar in dollars. Let S be the amount of sugar transported in tons. The company can transport up to 30 tons of sugar. Suppose that C equals 120S plus 250 gives C as a function of S. So S, this is, we're talking input and output. So domain is always input. Range is always the output. So whatever's, remember, the domain also controls the problem and it's the variable inside. So this is domain, which is the S, and S is the amount of sugar. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start with checking the domain, and that is the amount of sugar. And then the range by process of elimination. If one is the domain, the other is the range, but the range is the output. So this is the letter that's by itself, so it's the output, which is the range. Okay, so that will be the cost to transport the sugar. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is the domain. This is going to be based on the problem. We need to have the smallest to largest allowed. Okay, so when we're thinking the smallest, what you're asking yourself is, do negatives make sense? And then the other thing is can you do fractions? Does make sense? All right, so when I'm looking at it, and then the last thing you're going to do is, does 0 make sense? Okay, so we got 3 things that we're going to check of what it makes sense. The largest is going to be, this is usually either the smallest or the largest is stated in the problem. All right, so so I'm thinking about this. I'm transporting sugar. So does it make sense that I transport negative 50 tons of sugar? No, because how would I get that from other people? So negatives don't make sense. Can I do half a ton of sugar? Yeah, that makes sense. It's not like it's something that I'm selling a whole block of things. And then does 0 make sense? So if I transport no sugar, yeah, it's not really doing anything, but it does make sense. It's something that is reasonable. So my smallest number is going to be a 0. I'm going to type it right in here, and then I'm going to look at the drop down. And then I'm looking at the problem. The company can transport up to 30 tons of sugar. That is it's the amount of sugar, so it is my domain. So I'm going up to 30 tons. Now, because I said fractions make sense, I'm not going to list numbers. I'm just going to say 0 to 30 tons. So when I look at my choices, I am going to be picking the set of all numbers from 0 to 30. And if I look at all of my other choices, this is the only one that has it. But this would be listing, like, I have to do whole tons if I am listing those numbers, meaning the fractions didn't make sense. So we're taking that one. I'm going to check this off while I have my drop down. Now, the only one that you have to actually do math for is this one needs calculation. So this is going to be plug in lowest, then highest, biggest, into equation. Okay, so my lowest is 0. So I'm taking my equation. I'm going to change colors here so that I remember what I'm going to be erasing. So I have C equals 120. I'm plugging in for S the smallest number, so I'm plugging in my 0. And then plus 2,500. So this is just going to be 0 plus 2,500. So this is 2,500 is going to be my smallest. And then this one, I'm plugging in 30. That's my biggest. So C equals 120 times 30 plus 2,500. So 12 times 30 is 36. And then I've got 2 zeros plus 25. And this is going to equal 6,100 tons. All right, so then when I look at my drop down, I should have an answer that goes from 25,000 to 61,000. So 2,500, yep, 2,500 to 6,100 is this one. I'm going to check my answers. Should be good. So check. All right, so I've got one done, and we're going to do another one, and I'm going to selectively see what I have to erase. So I'm going to erase my equation. I can have my note, a lot of my notes here. I'm going to erase this. And I have this coming out. So, and this. Cool. All right, so this time Linda is a software salesperson. Let P be Linda's total pay in dollars. Let N be the number of copies of History is Fun she has sold. Linda has 130 copies to sell. Suppose that P equals 40N plus 2,400 gives P as a function of N in these group 4 available copies. All right, so this is domain. Domain is N. N is the number of copies. So I'm going to pick that to start with. So number of copies. That means the range is going to be the P, and P is total pay. So that is what the result is she gets paid based on what she has sold. So then I'm going to be thinking of, with these, does it make sense to do a negative? Can she sell -5 copies of this? No. Can she sell half of a program? It's an actual program. Who would buy half of a program? So this tells me that no, fractions don't make sense. And then 0, that does make sense. So I can go from 0, but she has to sell whole number copies. So I want 0, 1, 2, 3, because fractions don't make sense. And then I can go all the way up to how many copies does she have available? She has 130. Okay, so that's going to be the choice that I'm going to want for that drop down. And if I look here, I have, it's not the set of all numbers starting from 0, but it's listing all of them here. So it's going to be that choice. And now I have to plug it in for the range. So this is the one that I have to do the calculations with. And I'm going to plug in 0. So P equals 40 times 0 plus 2,400 equals 0 plus 2,400 equals 2,400. And now remember, I'm counting evenly up. So the range will also count up by numbers. And then I'm going to plug in 130. So this is P equals 40 times 130 plus 2,400. So 4 times 13 is 52. That's not a 2. Okay, 52 and 2 zeros plus 2,400 plus 6,600. All right, so she's gonna make between $2,400 and $6,600. So we should have a drop down for that choice, and it should have them listed, and we can 76. I didn't add right. It is actually going to be this one. So I added incorrectly. So we will fix that. Not that the work really is, it'd be my work in my notebook. And we're going to check our answer. And we have one more to do. All right, so we've got one more to do. Let us erase our basic stuff. Looking at it, so we've gotten the ones where you have to list the numbers and the ones that it's all the numbers in between. So this one, we have the owners of our recreational area are filling a small pond with water. Let W be the total amount of water in the pond in liters. Let T be the total number of minutes that water has been added. Suppose that W equals 25T plus 300, where W is a function of T for the next 30 minutes. All right, so when I'm looking at this, the T is in the equation and it is what it is the function of. So T is domain. And T is the number of minutes. So number of minutes, and that means the output is the amount of water. When I'm adding water into a pool and turning on time, it doesn't make sense to start counting time before I start. So 0 is going to be what I'm doing now. I can do half a minute and thinking of that. So the time does work as fractions or decimals. So 2, the longest that it's going to be on is 60 minutes. So 0 to 60. When we're plugging in our stuff, we've got W equals 25 times 0 plus 300. So this is going to be 300. And when I plug in the 60, I have W equals 25 times 60 plus 300. So this is going to be 25 times 60 is 20 plus 5 times 60, which is 1200 plus 3D with a 0. So this is 1500 plus 300, 1800. And remember, they're going to be 2 because my problem at the top said 2. So now we can check our answers. So we've got this one checked, this one checked. And then I want the numbers from 0 to 60, all of them included because fractions make sense. And then I need the answers from 300 to 1800 because I plugged in my 0 to get the 300, plugged in my 60 to get the 1800. Check my answer, and we are good with this topic.